Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates.
Hi, welcome to Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates. I'm your host, Mike Iglinski. It's been a while we've been back on the air, but it's political season, so it's nice to be back here on Channel 41. I think it's 46, 41, wherever you are, digital or analog. Anyway, tonight's guest we're pretty excited to have is Charlie Watkins. He's a candidate for Justice of the Peace. Thanks for being here, Charlie. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Charlie, Charles?
Charlie's fine, yeah.
Char?
Char?
Anyway, Mr. Watkins, anyway, what I'd like to do is just get right into it.
Sure.
You know, this is, I assume, the first time that you have run for political office. I think you did run for the DA last time around.
I did, yes. I put myself into the DA's race.
Okay. But this is the first time for a Justice of the Peace.
Yeah.
Well, for people who don't really know you, tell me a little bit about your background. Where'd you come from?
Oh, I guess start at the beginning. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. Lived there and left. I was about 8 years old when I left there, and ended up growing up in Scottsdale, Arizona. I grew up there. I spent my summers, a lot of those, working with an uncle of mine who was a drywall finisher, and kind of learned that trade at an early age. Mm-hmm. Went from there. I was 17. Back then you could do this. I had my parents sign. I joined the United States Marine Corps, and I did a stint with them. And after I got out of the service,
Where'd you serve?
All over. Yeah.
How long were you in the military?
I spent 2 years in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you came back, and then what'd you do after that?
Actually went back into the construction business and was swinging a hammer for a living and did that. And just decided one day that I'd like to be a lawyer. I wanted to do a little something different with my life. So.
And enough time on job sites and being in the sun and.
Yeah. It was a fun trade. I enjoyed it, but I wanted a little more out of life. So I swing a hammer all day, and I went actually started at night school. Went to the community college and got my degree there, and then went to ASU and finished up at UNLV, and then finally years later got to law school and got my law degree.
Where'd you go to law school?
Thomas Cooley in Lansing, Michigan.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Yeah. I know a Cooley graduate actually. There's quite a few Cooley graduates in the valley here. It seems to be there's like a natural exodus out of Michigan down to the Sun Belt sometimes. I think people just get tired of the doom and gloom and the rain, you know?
It does get cold and gloomy up there, yeah. That's one of the things I learned going to law school. I learned I'm a Southwestern kind of guy.
When I spent some time back east with my wife, and I went to school in the South, but worked back east for about 5 years, and it was the same thing. We had both grown up in Las Vegas, and eventually she said, you know, you do realize you took a girl who lived in the sun her entire life to a place where it's raining every day, and so she said, time to go back. So once it's in your blood, I think it's hard to get it out.
I think it is, yeah. It's a wonderful place to be and grow up.
So did you come directly to Pahrump from law school, or what did you do thereafter?
No, after law school, I went to work in Vegas for a criminal defense firm, and got a lot of criminal defense experience, and also, which I'm kind of proud of, I did a lot of appellate work with that firm. I've been involved with appeals, many to the Nevada Supreme Court, Nevada U.S. District Court, Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and I was actually involved in 2 writs of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court.
Wow. They
did get granted, but that was quite a thing to be involved in.
Absolutely.
As a lawyer.
Yeah, it's a very diverse practice field for criminal to be, you know, doing trial work. I assume probably misdemeanor and felony.
Yeah.
And then doing all the way to appeals, you know, that's a very different time in your day, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So you did private practice for how many years?
Probably about 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years of doing criminal defense work.
Criminal defense.
And then you decided what?
You know, I came out to Pahrump many times, as a lot of us do, from Vegas, and I just love this community. And I had an opportunity. There was an opening at the DA's office, and I said, wow, that's where I want to live. Mm-hmm. So I came out and got hired on. And for the past 7 years, I've been a prosecuting attorney out here. In fact, in the very courtroom that I'm running for office in,
right.
Judge Brisbill's position. I did that, and for the last year, Mr. Kunze has put me in as a civil attorney for the county.
Right.
So I did a lot of civil work. I've been assigned specifically to the Regional Planning Commission as their attorney.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that was a position that actually probably requires a fair amount of research for you to be figuring out what's going on with the planning commission, probably very different than your criminal practice.
Absolutely. This civil is such a huge area of law. You got everything from open meeting laws to land issues, contract issues, tax issues. It goes on and on and on. But very exciting.
Yeah. So, well, tell me about this. Your transition from the defense side to prosecutor's role. How was that? Was that something that took some time to getting adjusted to, or did you feel as if it was just a natural transition, or maybe a natural progression in your career to go from defense to prosecution?
It was really natural for me. I kind of got razzed by a lot of the defense attorneys when I came out here out of Vegas. Like, oh my goodness, how could you be a prosecutor? You're going to the dark side, as they like to say. And but I never really found it that way. All you got to do is just follow your job description and do what you're supposed to do, whether you're defense or whether you're a prosecutor, and you're going to work out fine.
Well, it's kind of funny that you mention that, because typically what I've seen with a lot of attorneys is that they'll spend some time in a prosecutor's role, and then typically they go to defense.
Yeah, it probably works both ways.
All right, so that brings you to today. You spent 7 or 8 years now, you said, in the DA's office.
Going on 8 years now.
Okay, so in your 8th year, and the first year you've been working in the civil department.
This past year.
Past year, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you've decided that it's time to take a new position and maybe take a run at Justice of the Peace.
Yeah.
Why is that?
There's probably various reasons. I guess maybe one of the selfish reasons is even at law school, a lot of lawyers, I think, envision maybe becoming a judge someday. So it's a nice thing to have under your belt. But for the not so selfish reasons, it's a very important position, especially in a small community like ours. And I think you need the people in there with the right character and the right experience to really be effective and do a good job and make the office look good.
Okay, well, we're going to take our first commercial break, and then thereafter we're going to talk about really what the role of the Justice of the Peace in the judicial system is. Okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
We're going to take a quick commercial. We'll be right back with Justice of the Peace candidate Charlie Watkins.
Court reporter with Stovall and Associates. Court reporter with Stovall and Associates.
Welcome back to Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates. I'm your host, Mike Oglinski. Tonight's segment, we're talking to Charlie Watkins. He's a candidate for Justice of the Peace here in Pahrump. And we were actually just talking about the position of Justice of the Peace, and Mr. Watkins was going to tell us a little bit about why he's chosen to run for this position. And in fact, I wanted to ask really the role of Justice of the Peace, say, versus the district court judge position that's also open. So you had mentioned you felt it was important, as far as, or an integral role in the justice system. Tell me, what does the Justice of the Peace specifically do?
They've actually got several duties. I guess generally they hear both criminal and some civil cases, but there's several layers of courts in the state of Nevada. You start with municipal court judges, which are judges for municipalities, which we don't have any in Nye County.
Right.
And what we do have is justice courts, and they serve various functions. One, they have jurisdiction over all misdemeanor cases. Some of the biggest ones they do are your DUIs and your domestic batteries. I've done plenty of those as a prosecutor.
Still pretty serious cases, even though they're classified as a misdemeanor.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, there's nothing that isn't serious about them. I mean, of course, we don't want people out there drinking and driving, and the domestic violence is just really bad scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But so they have jurisdiction over those misdemeanors and many others. And also, when it comes to felonies and gross misdemeanors, what they don't have jurisdiction per se, but what they do in those cases is they hold these mini trials called preliminary hearings, and those are basically probable cause hearings to determine whether there's enough evidence in a particular case to shoot that case on up to district court to sit it for a jury trial.
Where they hear the gross misdemeanors and felonies.
Yeah. Misdemeanor crimes are crimes that are punishable by up to 6 months in jail and up to $1,000 fine. Gross misdemeanors, you can get up to a year in jail, and I don't remember the fine amount. I think it's $2,000. I have to look that up. And then felony cases or any crimes where you can do prison time.
Okay. So as far as the justice of the peace, why in fact has it been said that the justice court is seeing these misdemeanors is because of the volume associated with them, that you kind of act as a pass-through, or is it that the issues themselves are black and white enough that you can make a quick judgment and it's at least effective? Or tell me a little bit about the role versus, say, the district court judge, typically what they'd see in their day versus, say, the justice of the peace, volume and complexities of issues.
Sure. The district courts, I mean, they do several things, obviously, like we discussed. They're the trial courts in gross misdemeanors and felony cases. That's when we bring juries in and present our case to a jury to make the factual findings in a particular case, where the judge is there to explain the law and make sure the laws are followed in those cases. What they do a lot of also is the district courts serve as appellate courts to the justice court. So if you're down there and have some legal issues that you don't agree with, maybe a ruling or whatever the case may be, then your remedy would be an appeal to the district court level to have those judges look at those things and make a decision on them.
How common is it that you see a district court playing an appellate position to justice court?
It's getting a little more common out here in Nye County, but it's not that common.
Why is it becoming more common in Nye County, do you think?
You know, it's hard to say. I really don't have an answer for that.
Okay. So, you know, it's one of the interesting things, and I was discussing this with a couple of people when you had announced your candidacy. People were speculating as to, well, why would Charlie run for justice of the peace when we have a district court position open also?
First of all, I really like what Judge Wonker's doing up there. I think she's a wonderful judge, and she's doing a great job for the county, which is important. Judge Brisbill was retiring, and I just seen it as a good opportunity to fulfill that ambition as to someday be a judge.
Okay. What are the qualifications for? Are they the same in district court versus, say, justice of the peace?
No, not at all. At the district court level, you must be an attorney and licensed in the state of Nevada to hold that position. And I think you have to have been practicing law for 10 years. The Bonaventure rule, I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
Judge Bonaventure's son out of Clark County, got out of law school, ran for district court judge, and he was in.
Oh, I do recall that.
Yeah. So right after that, they changed the rules a little bit and said, well, we maybe like to have people have a little more experience up at that level. So you got to be practicing law for at least 10 years before you're eligible for the district court.
Gotcha.
And the same goes in larger counties, 50,000 or more, I believe, is the number. For JP, you also have to be a licensed attorney in the state of Nevada. However, in our rural counties, and I'm not sure which ones, but I know Nye County is one of them, you can actually run for justice of the peace without having a law degree.
Oh.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of history behind that. It's kind of short, but it's interesting. Back in the old days, the bigger cities attracted all the lawyers, and it was really difficult back then to get lawyers to come out and practice in small communities. There wasn't a lot of people, probably wasn't a lot of work, and so they made that rule. Under 50,000 in rural counties, you could be a non-lawyer and actually run for the position.
Oh, okay. So typically, it was just it was need-based.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And so today, I think we're sitting right at that threshold today in this county.
Yeah, correct. And in my civil workings with the county, I actually had to get into the census on one issue, and the last census was, I believe, 43,000 and some bit of change that we're officially at right now. So we're getting close to that number.
Now, when they're doing these census numbers, I know it's where your citizenship, or excuse me, you would be counted in the census as to where you're remaining, 6 months and 1 day out of the year, something along those lines. Do we have a population that swells over that due to, say, the snowbirds, or is that?
I would venture to say yes, but I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, I didn't think you'd know, but I figured if you did some research on it. It seems to me sometimes you might see, in large retirement communities, you do see a population that swells in certain parts of the year.
Very true, yeah. And I personally ran across that issue. But obviously, if you look out on our roads in Pahrump, there's a lot more traffic out there than there used to be.
Okay, so we're going to take our second commercial break.
All righty.
And we'll be right back with Mr. Watkins, and we're going to do our final segment talking about his candidacy for Justice of the Peace here in Knight County. We'll be right back.
Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates. Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates.
Welcome back to Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates. I'm your host, Mike Aglinski. We're here with the final segment with Charlie Watkins, candidate for Justice of the Peace here in Knight County. Before we went to the commercial break, we were talking about some of the qualifications for a candidate for Justice of the Peace. And one of the things you had mentioned, which I think is very interesting, is that one of the qualifications being under, what was it, you said 50,000 or 59,000?
I believe it's 50,000.
50,000
Correct.
people in a county. In fact, a candidate for Justice of the Peace doesn't actually have to be a lawyer.
That's correct, yes.
Do you think that a legal education is an important thing to have when you're sitting in a position of this amount of power?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's 7 candidates out there, and 2 of us are lawyers. But yeah, definitely. I mean, especially when you're dealing with criminal cases, and it's so important. You're dealing with people's rights. And I went to school for 3 years of law school, and I've been practicing for almost 10 years. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a place as a proving ground to be learning the law. I mean, you can, but it's nice to hit the ground running because there are important constitutional individual rights at stake here. Mm-hmm. And that experience and knowledge helps to protect those rights and protect the system.
Do you think that your legal education would serve to allow you to be more objective on the stand? I mean, because I think that one of the common themes that you see in a smaller area, rurals specifically, you see a very large amount of cohesion amongst the population. So you might be very well sitting in front of someone rendering a judgment on somebody you've gone to church with, or you've seen on the golf course, or you see at the grocery store.
Yeah, and that's very true. Obviously, in those situations, you would want to put that relationship on the record and make a determination as to whether that relationship was close enough to whether you would have to recuse yourself, and also speak to the person that you had the relationship with and their attorneys, and make sure that they're on board with you hearing that case, because we do have 2 justice court departments now.
Right.
In the case of a recusal, one could actually be transferred over to the other department, and they do that. Occasionally that happens.
I would think it would be natural. Sometimes they do spill over into each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, that kind of brings me to the whole role. It's an interesting thing. I think you have so much contact with the public. This is truly the role of a public servant. Although it's certainly a lofty position, and it certainly has I would say, a fair amount of power associated with it. But at the end of the day, to me, it seems like you're taking on the role of a public servant. Is that something that you've always felt that you needed to do? Or, I mean, with your military service and going into this new adventure that you're...
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I guess one of my personal philosophies I developed over the years is, honestly, in life, you need to make yourself of some use somewhere to somebody, or better yet, I think, probably to the community at large. To my military service with that attitude in mind. And that's where I'm going into the judgeship with a very, very honorable position. Mm-hmm. And I have no ego. It's not about me. It's about those defendants. It's about those people in the courtroom. It's about their rights. So I think I'll do a good job with that.
Are you having a difficulty potentially giving up, what's starting to be kind of a medium to long-term career at the DA's office to kind of change gears and possibly sit as a justice of the peace?
It took a little thinking. I thought about it for probably the last year. I anticipated the Honorable Judge Bisbell retiring and that she's doing. And one of the things I didn't really like, but I'll have to take a cut in pay if I do get elected.
You'll take a cut in pay?
Yes, I will. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is not about the money for me, and obviously I'm working as a deputy DA now. I do have a good job, so it is about serving the public and doing a good job for them. And one of the things I do realize is, you are a public servant. The public doesn't work for us; we work for them. we hold that public trust. We're held to be accountable up there, being respectful, being fair, being impartial, and being honest.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I've noticed, and because we do have offices in Southern Nevada, one of the very unique things about Nye County is that I felt as if judges in the past are highly politicized, and typically you don't see that. More comments to the media, more public opinions given. Do you think that's a pitfall for somebody in a rural county because of the position? Or is it something that is maybe, say, a flaw in character?
And I apologize. I'm not quite sure I understand the question exactly.
What I mean is, I've noticed that elected officials, typically, especially when you start talking about people in the judicial role, they have a tendency to keep issues within the courtroom. And they're not as vocal about political issues outside of the courtroom.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, I see where you're going. Absolutely. And actually, it's kind of interesting, and a lot of folks get the idea that if you're a political figure, especially a judge, that you're kind of sitting there and you just kind of do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just absolutely not true. Just like everyone else in society, judges have rules to follow. And a lot of the rules as a judge, and especially a judicial candidate, come out of the judicial canons, which have been laid down by the Judicial Ethics Commission. And one of the things in there is very clear is it's a nonpartisan race. Judges are unlike like the Republicans and Democrats and the Independents, who are all out there pushing that political philosophy, whereas as a judge, we don't do anything like that as part of our job. We're basically held to be fair and impartial in what we do. We look at the law, understand, analyze it. We look at the facts of the case, and if those facts show us beyond a reasonable doubt that someone has violated the law, your job is to find them guilty. So in a way, it's very mechanical. There's no personal ideals in there. It's a pretty straightforward thing.
It seems that although you probably have a nice roadmap to follow with the law being laid out, as you just described, I think one of the things that we've always looked for as far as candidates, at least I myself, when I've looked at different candidates, I'm always looking for a certain moral code, and not to say Judeo-Christian moral code, but somebody that follows the same morals that I've always held to be true in my life, because wielding power that society is very important to have.
Absolutely. Besides experience, that's the next probably most important thing, or equally important, is to have character and good morals as a judge. Of course, all the candidates are going to tell you how wonderful we are, and I have a hard time personally doing that, but I'm a good guy. I once heard it said that if you want to know a man's true character, find out how he treats those who can do nothing for him. Yeah. In
it's
my
true.
case, yeah, I think it is. I really like that. And I would challenge anyone out there in this community to go talk with the folks at the courthouse, even defendants, people that I've had personal dealings with over the last 7 years as a prosecutor and a civil attorney for the county. And ask those people, how did Mr. Watkins treat you? Were you treated fair and impartially? Were you treated with respect and decency? And I think you'll find the answer to that is yes to all those questions.
We're almost out of time. I do want to talk about, you got a fundraiser coming up and basically a meet and greet with the public. Where's it happening? Time, place?
It will be Saturday, March 31st at the Sanders Family Winery, and that's out on Kellogg.
Okay.
It starts at 5 to 7:30. It's $20 a ticket to get in. It's a fundraiser meet and greet. We're going to have some silent auctions. There's going to be some art and sculpture, some wine tasting, and we've got a host of local talent, singers, musicians, some acting and skits and things that are going to be done. So it's going to be a really wonderful time. I'd like to see everybody out there just to have fun.
If people want to donate time or monies to to your race, where can they get in contact with you?
A couple ways. My phone number, 727-9120. And my new email address, I think I said it was a website last time. I don't have a website. My email address, vote Charles G. Watkins, Watkins, and that's at yahoo.com.
Well, Mr. Watkins, thank you so much for being on tonight. It was my pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for watching tonight, folks. We do appreciate it. We'll see you next week. In fact, I think we're going to have another candidate on for political office here in Nye Nye County. Now the political season's up and running. We're excited. So join us next time. Thanks again for watching, and good night.
Court reporter with Stovall and Associates.